Hi, my name is George Bowers. I'm an instructor here at Investors United School of Real Estate Investing in Baltimore, Maryland. Today's instructional video tutorial is a step-by-step how to use the IURealist property search database program that we have. What is IURealist? IURealist is by far the best research tool available to real estate investors today. IURealist is an online application unlike any other that's offered. It was designed and implemented by Investors United exclusively for real estate investors like us. What does IURealist do? IURealist performs two essential functions. It helps you find real estate investing opportunities, and it helps you to evaluate them. You can do comps directly from the program. You don't have to be a licensed agent anymore. So you may be asking yourself, where do we get our data? Our data is pulled from multiple list services, as well as county and municipal courthouses. Essentially, our information is coming from the same sources as what licensed agents have access to. You now have access to that same information. As you can see from the screen, I'm on the IURealist homepage. Before we get started with our property search, there's a couple of things on the homepage I'd like to point out. First, we have a short product review video that you can access by clicking here. We also have a tab that's frequently asked questions, a brief tutorial, and sample reports and screenshots that you have access to. Now, before we log into the IURealist program, it's important that you understand that you need to use two web browsers for a search. If you're using Internet Explorer or Safari, you may not have any luck or success getting information returned. It's best that you use either Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome. At the top right-hand corner, you'll notice where it says Member Login. You'll need your username and password in order to access the program. Click Submit, and make sure that you enable pop-ups. We have two tabs for doing your searches, one being the Quick Search and the second being My Search. When using the Quick Search tab, it's important that you know the actual property address and/or property owner. It could be 123 Main Street, or it could be Main Street LLC. Either one will work. It's important that when you type in the address so that you keep off the street suffix. So don't include lane, avenue, street. Leave all that off. Otherwise, the program won't recognize it. As I'm doing my searches here, in order to protect the privacy of property owners, I'm going to be using all properties that are owned by the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. Here's our first search. 1040 West 43rd Street. Again, I'm going to keep off the street suffix, and I'm going to click Search. Now you'll notice that the program identifies the property with this red flag. I can zoom in. Here you can see it's on 43rd Street. I can use the aerial perspective. I can change from a north to a west perspective, south, east. Same basic functions as using Google Earth. Clicking directly on the flag will enable you to identify the actual property address and who the owner is. You'll also notice there's various tools at the bottom here. If you click on this icon here, which is View Reports, you'll see the property report for that specific property. Here's what the report looks like. You'll notice the property address is identified here in the top left-hand corner, the owner name, and the male owner name. Now, when you're doing your marketing, it's important that you're using the tax billing address. The tax billing address is where the actual owner of the property resides. If the tax billing address is different from the actual property address, that means it's an absentee owner. So again, make sure all of your mailings, your postcards, your letters are going to the tax billing address. As we scroll through the property report, you'll notice the location information that's provided, the tax information. Here's the tax ID number. You'll need that information if you're actually closing on a property. Here's the assessment and tax information. You'll notice it'll give you a 3-year snapshot, 2014, 2015, 2016. Here's the current. The assessed value for the property is $13,200. The market value is also $13,200. So it kind of gives you a snapshot of both. Now be aware there is a difference between the assessed value and the market value of a property. The assessed value is what the local jurisdiction is deemed the value to be worth from a tax perspective, from a tax point of view. And the actual market value is what you could sell the property for today. So be conscious of both of those numbers. Here's the characteristics, the lot size. I also do a lot of my searches using the land use code here. So you can see this is a tax exempt property, and we'll get into how to use a search using specific land use codes later on. Scroll down, here's the property location. And if there was any foreclosure information, mortgage information associated with the property, that would be provided further down. So from here, we can also do comps or comparable sales. You click on the comparables tab found here at the top, directly below the subject property address. There's natural default settings that are created within the program. So you may have to change or adjust them, and we'll go over that now. You'll see here there's no comparables found, so we'll need to modify our search. Click on the Modify Preferences, or you can click on the Modify button at the bottom. So that's when you have the window. You can also modify your comp search by clicking on the Modify button and clicking Search. The window will pop up and you can change and modify the certain parameters that are most useful for you. So here we are. Here's how we're able to change the search criteria for doing comparables. You'll notice again, these are all the default settings that are associated with the program. You can change and modify them as you feel most useful, whatever's most useful for you. You'll notice here that the number of comparables, 20, is the default setting. We can get a maximum of 50 results or 50 returns. I'm going to go in between and pick 35. You'll see as we scroll down, the distance from the subject property is half mile. I'm going to do a 2-mile radius. And as I scroll down through the window, you can see all of the other options that's available to you. My explanation here is just a bland, generic version of how to do it, but you can customize this to benefit exactly what you're looking for, what you're trying to achieve. Search time period, we can go back a full year. I always like to do in between 6 to 9 months, so I'll keep 9 months as selected. Once you're satisfied, you go down to the bottom and click Submit. And what the program will do is change and modify based on those new search criteria that you've inserted. So with it being a tax-exempt property, you can see there was only one sale that took place with going back the last 9 months. You'll also notice that sometimes you have a colored flag here next to the property. Each color symbolizes or represents a different property transaction. So for example, the brown, if I move the cursor over, that's a bank-owned sale indicator. That means the current owner of the property bought it from the bank or from the lender. If it's a green flag, that means it's bank-owned currently. If it's pink, it means it's a short sale. But if you ever have any question as to what that flag represents, you just move your cursor over top and it will identify it. Now again, this is a tax-exempt property, so you can see we only have minimal return. If I was to close this out, and find a property close by here on 43rd Street, again, I'm going to click on the property report to protect the privacy of the owner. I'm just going to do a comparable sale. Here you can see this is a traditional townhouse within the city of Baltimore. We got our 20 out of 35 comparable returns. You can see here the land use code classification. They're all residential, townhouse, row house. Here's our subject property in bold above the bold line here. And all of these other properties are those that have sold within a 2-mile radius, which is what we typed in and modified the comp criteria. You can see here the summary statistics. The high in the area was 270,000. The low was 72, and the median is 162.5. This is a great little tool as a nice little snapshot as to what's going on within any specific area. So as we scroll down, you'll again notice there's a flag, and it's brown, which means it's a bank-owned sale indicator. The current owner bought it from a bank, the lender. So again, here's the address of the property. Here's the recording date, and here's the sales price. It's also important that you make sure here the land use code, that all of these are the residential and townhouse classification, that when you're doing your comps, that they're all the same property type. So if you find one that's near the top, you can click on this icon here, which gives you access to that property report. Here you can see the sales took place April 28th of 2016. Sales price was $199,988, and you can scroll down and see the characteristics of the property and see if they match up to the one that you're interested in. So here's the building square footage, the acreage, the number of stories. See, it's 2 stories, it's 1 unit, 1 total bath, townhouse, row house, residential, open porch are the classifications or the characteristics. Here is the sales history for the property going back to 1997. You can see here it was acquired by HUD. It was then sold to a property owner. You can see the different transactions that have taken place. So it was last sold in 2005 for $149,900. And again, we saw it was acquired April 28th of 2016 for $199,988. We can also scroll down and see the mortgage history. You can see the property, there was a mortgage as of May 20th of this year for $196,365. The name of the lender is Mortgage Master. It's an FHA loan. Here's who the borrower's name is, and here is the term. If the interest rate was provided, you'd see that here as well. So again, this is a comp. This is a property that has sold within a 9-month period of today for that subject property that we were interested in. I can also zoom into the map. They're not always in chronological order. So what I like to do is I like to zoom in, and you see here I'll use 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 9 as my comps. And you can scroll up to the top and just click on those that are immediately close to the subject property. You also have the neighbors tab at the top, which identifies those neighbors immediately within close proximity to the property, usually the same street. You can see how that perspective looks. So we can zoom in. Again, here's our subject property, and here's all of the neighbors identified. So for example, if our subject property, if you were doing a rehab or a renovation, you may want to advertise to the owner saying, I've just acquired this property in the neighborhood. I'm doing rehabs, renovations. If you're interested in selling your property, please contact me at such and such. You can do direct mailing by identifying who the neighbors are. Neighborhood profile. This is most useful if you've done a rehab or a renovation project and you're trying to sell the property on your own without enlisting the help of a real estate agent. You'll notice a lot of times if you go into a property that's listed, it could be an open house. A lot of times the agents will have a packet, property packet, that's on the counter for you to view, to take with you. You can create your own by using IURealist. You can see here again, this is the neighborhood profile. A lot of the information that's provided, like demographics, wouldn't necessarily be useful if you were marketing the property. But as you scroll down at the bottom here, you'll notice that prospective home buyers would be interested in the school's information. So here it is here. All of the public schools. You have Medfield Heights Elementary School. It's less than a half-mile distance from the property. Number of students, number of teachers per students. Again, it's a public school. You have Hamden Elementary School, almost a mile from the property. 360 students, 16 teachers for every student. Those are the elementary schools. Here's the middle and the high schools. Baltimore Polytech, Western High, Independence. And you can scroll down and see the private schools are identified, their distance. And a number of prospective home buyers also want to know what local businesses are close by. Here you can see the eating, drinking establishments, which includes restaurants. Those are all provided here. You have the address of those establishments, a phone number, and the distance, as well as a description. And also here, you have the shopping information as well. Same scenario, the name of the business, the address, the phone number, and the distance. So this is useful, I find, that when you're trying to sell the property on your own. These are all questions that people have. What are the schools? How close are they? What are the local businesses? Shopping. You can include all of that in a packet that you've created your own by using IURealist. Now you'll notice on the screen here, one of the things that I found most useful when I'm doing my searches is to identify what the actual property lines are with specific property. If you're searching in an urban area like Baltimore City, it's pretty easy to identify what the property lines are, the property boundaries are. But when you're searching out in more rural areas, it becomes more difficult and complicated for identifying what a property is, what the property lines are, the boundaries are. So one of the things that I do is, for this, you have to go into the My Search tab, is you'll notice that you have this icon here which is identified with boundaries. You click on that and it gives you the opportunity to create boundaries. I find the top 3 to be most useful and most beneficial. That being the parcel, again, that identifies the property lines, the property boundaries, the neighborhood, as well as the zip code. What I've also found is that if I'm farming a specific area, specific street, for example, Eastern Avenue in the city, it covers 3 different zip codes. So if I was only farming that one zip code, I'm missing those 2 other zip codes that also include Eastern Avenue. So I always want to know what the parcel is, what the neighborhood is, and what the zip code is. As I zoom out, again, here's our subject property identified with the red flag. The purple is the neighborhood boundary, so it's in Hose Heights here. Here's Medfield. And then the blue is the zip codes. So as I scroll out further, you can see again, it's in Hose Heights. Here's Medfield. And it's also in the 21211 zip code here in Baltimore City. So again, I find especially the zip code being most beneficial when you're doing your searches. You can also do a search based on neighborhoods, and we'll get into that later. And I also like to see what is identified, what the neighborhood names are, the identifications, that sort of thing. We'll get into all that later. But that's why you see these gray lines here. Again, these are the property lines or the property boundaries for the properties and the neighborhood. Now, switching over using the My Search tab. You can create any custom search criteria or parameters that you find most beneficial for yourself. You click on the Edit Attributes button at the bottom, and it will give you 30 to choose from. You click on Owner Information. I find owner occupied to be most beneficial. I'm able to search by absentee owners, so that's why I use owner occupied. You can do owner name, location information, property zip code. I always use that. Characteristics, the land use code. I find that to be beneficial as well. Land use code, core logic. Here's the assessment and tax information. So you could do a search based on properties that are exempt and what the particular exemption is. Sales information, you could do a search based on deed type. Foreclosure distressed properties, I always use the foreclosure stage. Mortgage information. So the loan type, if you were interested in acquiring notes, you could use the loan type, you'd use private, and then you'd get information on all of the properties that are have privately held mortgages. Again, you can add multiple attributes here. They appear on the right of the page here. Once you're satisfied, you click Apply. And you'll notice they then appear here under the My Search tab. Now, under where it says Owner Occupied, you'll have to change it to either yes or no, or you can leave it blank, obviously. Yes is if it's an occupied owner. No is if it's an absentee owner. Now, if you're just getting started or you're looking for a method that's most beneficial to us as investors, I always found that absentee owner is the best place to start, and that's one of the search parameters, search criteria that I use almost exclusively. Now the zip code. We'll do 21211 in Baltimore City. And I'm going to show you what this search looks like just by using these two search parameters by themselves. So once you're satisfied, you then click the search button. And the program has gathered all of those properties that meet that criteria. So in the 21211 zip code, absentee owners, the program has identified those. You'll see that it exceeds the maximum count of 1,000. We just click the Export Results button here. Before I do that, you can see that you can also create labels immediately here directly from the search criteria, search parameters that you typed in. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. You click the Create Labels. The most common label used is the Avery 5160. Now you can also use Staples brand. As long as it's identified with the 5160, they'll all work and they're all compatible. I always find it's most beneficial. Make sure that tab is clicked. And you also want to eliminate duplicate labels. What you'll find is that when you're doing just a general search, that you may have an investor that owns multiple properties in a specific zip code. So what the Eliminate Duplicate Labels button will do is, rather than sending him 6 or 8 postcards or letters, depending on how many property that he may own, it will only send him 1 letter or 1 postcard. So you can print the range. You can see here the number of properties, absentee owners in 21211 was 1,920. For this example, I'm just going to show you what it looks like for the first 12. So I'm going to adjust the print range. If you're doing this at home, you probably want to just keep it at the full 1,920. I'm going to click the Create button. So as you can see, opening up the Word document, we now have all of those properties that we'd selected. Here's what it looks like. So you would put your labels face down into your printer, click Print, and based on the Word document, you'd create your labels. So it's a simple, easy, one-step process, really, if you are looking to create labels directly from your search. What I always do is I always save my labels as the Word document, so I'll save it as 21211 absentee owners. And then that way, I'll do my mailing, and if I ever want to come back to this particular search criteria that I put together, rather than doing a whole new search, all I have to do is come in, open up that Word document, and print labels, and I can do a mailing again without having to start all over. Again, one of the features and benefits of IURealist. Okay, so based on the absentee owners and 21211, you saw that we got a return of 1,920. So let's do our search again. You can see here we exceed the maximum property counts of 1,000. So click the Export Results. And what you'll notice is here is the custom export window. you can see you have a total of 218 classifications that you can choose from. I found that out of those 218, 161 you consistently get bits of information on, and those are the ones that I have checked here. So I'll scroll through so you can see and identify what those are. Again, these are ones I've done multiple searches in multiple counties, multiple jurisdictions. What I found is that, again, this is for an Excel spreadsheet. What I found is the ones that I have checked, you'll consistently have bits of information provided from that jurisdiction. The ones that I don't have checked, I never received any information in that field. The reason why I have so many of them searched is, or checked is I'll do a mail merge to either create labels or insert bits of information from this Excel spreadsheet into a letter. And I have all of this information here so that as somebody calls me back, they're responding to a postcard or a letter, I can open it up, I can identify the property address, and then all of this information is here, all of the sales history, the assessed value, if there's a mortgage, all of that information is there. So I find that when you're talking to someone, especially when they're responding to your marketing, I like to have all of that information there available in front of me at one place. So that's why I have the 161 of 218 options checked. Really, what you only need for marketing is you need the mail owner name, the tax billing address, the tax billing city, tax billing state, and the tax billing zip code. If you have those five if you have those five things identified and checked, you'll be able to do your marketing campaign. So again, you need the owner name, tax billing address, tax billing city, tax billing state, tax billing zip code. And I also like to include the property address as well. I include that information to a letter, but it's not essential, just those five things. So I'm going to do a short export range for demonstration purposes. I'm only going to export 1 through 12. So I have that here. Once you click export, the tally then starts working against the 10,000 total downloads per month. So again, you're allowed 10,000 total downloads per month. And once you click the export button here, whatever number is in the export, that then starts working against your 10,000. So you can see I've already done 28 for the month. Click export. And what the program is going to do is, again, create an Excel spreadsheet for me with all of those fields that I have. Okay, so as the Excel spreadsheet is opened up, this is what it looks like. If you click on the box that's above the 1 and directly next to the A, it highlights the entire document. You then can click on or in between any letter at the top, double click. And what it'll do is it'll move each column to be in line with the largest bit of information that's in each column. I also will go in and I'll center everything. It just makes it easy to identify. And I'll create a space here so that it becomes easy to identify. So from the Excel spreadsheet, again, I have 161 fields going across the top. And as I scroll through the document, you can see all of those identified. So again, when somebody's calling you, if they've responded to your mailing, you can see here I have all of the assessed information, the assessed values, all of that information right in front of me as I'm talking to them on the phone. Just useful, I found. If the property is in foreclosure, has ever been in foreclosure, that information is provided. So you can mark it directly to a trustee if you wanted to. Again, the trustee is the person that's taken over the property on behalf of the bank. So again, one of the features, again, that you have with IURealist is if you were interested in foreclosed properties, you can, again, market or target your advertising directly to the trustees. So here's what it looks like as I scroll across the top. You can see here I'm in the foreclosure information right now. There was the trustee that I spoke about before. Those are generally the attorneys. So again, I can identify the number full baths, the heating type of in the property, the improvements, all of the assessed values, what the land use code is. Here's all of the first mortgage information. So you can see this property has a mortgage of $41,100. It's a conventional mortgage. This one here, which is identified as light industrial, has a $250,000 mortgage, and it's private party, which means it could be a hard money lender or there's some unconventional financing that's in place. You can see here for this property here, it's a 9.75% interest rate, and it is adjustable. So all of that information you can have at your fingertips as you're using IURealist. Here's the D type. Again, here's the owner name. Here's the person that you'll probably more than likely be talking to, with the exception of if it's a business. You'll be talking to the owner of the LLC. And here's all of the market value information. So again, I save everything that I'm doing, all of my searches, into an Excel spreadsheet. I can create labels directly from the Excel spreadsheet, and I can also do a mail merge and insert any of this information, any of these fields I can insert into a letter. So if I'm doing a mass marketing, I'm looking to send out 2,500 letters for this month, I don't have to type up 2,500 individual letters. I can type up one master letter and, again, insert any of this information from the Excel spreadsheet into that letter. So it's definitely a time saver. I'm going to come back to this Excel spreadsheet later on for additional demonstration purposes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to save it. Okay, so I've saved the Excel spreadsheet to my desktop, so I can come back to that for further demonstrations as we get on. What I'm going to do is, keeping in with the search criteria that I have here, I'm going to now, using the foreclosure stage, I'm going to keep the property zip code of 21211. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to look at all of the pre-foreclosed properties in that zip code. Now you'll notice I haven't changed the land use code, so these could be commercial businesses, these could be residential businesses, these could be apartment buildings, apartment complexes. I haven't changed or modified the land use, so these are all properties in 21211 that's in a pre-foreclosure stage right now. And you can see they've been identified with the red flags here on the screen. If I click on it, it'll identify the property address. Again, to protect the privacy of the owner, I'm going to quickly delete that, and you can just see by clicking on the cursor how that information pops up. Foreclosure stage, rather than pre-foreclosure, we're going to look at bank owned. Click search. So with the pre-foreclosure stage, you could do a postcard or a letter, some sort of mailing campaign as to what services that you may offer someone facing foreclosure. You may or may not want to disclose that you know that they are in that situation. It's totally up to you and how you want to run your business. But again, you could market or target specific property owners who are in that pre-foreclosure stage. Now what I've done is I've changed it to bank owned. Some of these properties, with them being bank owned, could be listed currently. Some of them couldn't be. Some of them may have just been taken over by the lender and haven't been listed yet. But some of these properties, again, because they're owned by a lender, they could be listed in the MLS, so you could have access to those and be able to reach out to the agent and put in your offer, your contract that way. So if I zoom in here, you can see all of the properties in the 21211 zip code that are currently bank owned. You can see here it's identified there's 46 of them. The green flag being bank owned indicator, these are currently bank owned properties again. Here's the owner name, so you'll find the name of the institution, the lender, here's the address, again the zip code, and sale date and sales price. So this is generally when the owner prior to the bank owned the property. So I myself have not found any resource, any tool that's available to real estate investors like ourselves, where you can access properties that are in the pre-foreclosure or auction stage or that are currently bank owned. So IURealist definitely is the only program that I found where you can have access to that. You can do direct marketing to people in various stages of foreclosure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, again, an absentee owner search. So I'm changing it to no. I'm going to keep the same zip code of 21211. And this time I'm going to more target my search. If I'm just looking for absentee owners, the program will identify a gas station as an absentee owner, an apartment building, apartment complex, a commercial building as an absentee owner. You might be interested in just residential. So in the city here in Hamden, the vast majorities of the properties are row homes. So that's what I'm going to target. I'm going to focus. So under land use code, you click on select from list, and it gives you 30 to choose from. So you can see going alphabetically here, you have agricultural, aircraft facility, and amphitheater, animal farm, apartment. Now apartment comes under two classifications. It's an apartment building, an apartment complex. So if you're interested in either of those two, make sure that you have the apartment checked. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead here to the row home, townhome. Or I'm sorry, I said that backwards. It's townhouse, row house. I'm going to check that. Again, you can have multiple land use codes checked and selected at one specific time. Once you're satisfied, you then click the apply button at the bottom. You'll then notice that it's identified. So here I'm absentee owners, 21211, townhouse, row house classification only. I then click search, and what the program is going to do is identify all of those properties for us. So you can see there's more than 1,000. I'm going to click on the export results. So in Baltimore City, Hamden neighborhood, which is 21211, absentee owners, just townhouse, row house classification. You can see there's 1,319 properties that come under that identification. So you could literally today send out postcards or letters to 1,319 property owners if you chose. So you then have the option of exporting. How are you going to do that? Are you going to create an Excel spreadsheet? Are you going to create labels? So you have all of those options, again, available. Once you, again, click the export button, that's then when this total here starts working against the 10,000 total downloads that you have per month. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change areas just to kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm going to search 21201 in Baltimore. I'm now going to look for apartment buildings. Multifamily dwellings. And we'll do duplexes. So again, you can see I've picked multiple. I've done, again, apartments, multifamily dwellings, duplexes. I then click the apply button at the bottom. They then become identified here. So what I'm doing now, and since these are generally classified as absentee owners, you don't need that identified. So what I'm doing is in the 21201 zip code in Baltimore City, I'm looking for just these property types. I then click the search button. Generally, when there's 999 or less, they will appear here on the screen. If there's 1,000 or more, that's when you get the pop-up window that will appear. So you can see there's 324 properties in Baltimore City that have these three classifications. And so here's the 21201 neighborhood as a reference point here, as a reference guide for you. That's generally the Mount Vernon neighborhood of the city. So it'll stretch from the Inner Harbor clear on up to North Avenue as kind of a reference point for you. Another search option that you have is doing a search directly from the map. What you can do is using the pencil at the top. Again, you have to be in the My Search tab. Is you can do a search based on a radius, search based on a rectangle, and a search based on a polygon. The radius, that's pretty much self-explanatory. You pick a certain point, it could be a street intersection, and you can expand it out and it'll highlight a certain area. I don't use the radius as much because you miss a number of properties on the outside because it's a circle. The rectangle, again, not all streets in Baltimore and across the country run perfectly east-west, north-south. So what happens is when you pick the street intersections, you may miss properties on the north side of the street or the west side of the street, south. You kind of get the idea. So I use the polygon tool almost exclusively when I'm doing my searches, and it'll enable you to do a search as irregular as the streets are. So you can see here the neighborhood that I picked. You can see here you have a street running kind of in a northwesterly direction. So using the pencil, I'm going to click on the polygon tool. So as you can see, I have a number of points selected, street intersections. Once I'm satisfied with the highlighted area, I double click on that last particular icon here, and I now have a highlighted area. So for your farming, for your marketing, you may say from a certain street, I don't want to go any more west. I don't want to go any more north, east, south, whatever. You may want to confine yourself to a certain neighborhood, or maybe do a search that can is multiple zip codes, multiple neighborhoods. You can use this polygon tool, this polygon feature. So I've highlighted an area that stretches multiple zip codes and multiple neighborhoods. I can then come in and search absentee owners. I'm going to do absentee owners. I'm going to change the land use code setting to our townhouse row house. I then click apply again. So what I'm doing is in that highlighted area, I want absentee owners just in that highlighted area. I then go down and click at the bottom here where it says search. And what the program will do is, again, identify those properties meeting that particular search criteria, and I'll then have that identified for me. So there's 19 properties in that highlighted area, townhouse, row house, that's an absentee owner. So again, just another great way of targeting your marketing campaigns. I can then delete the polygon by clicking on the icon here. Now, going back into Edit Attributes, using the location, I'm now going to show you a search based on the names of the neighborhoods. So again, one of the advantages of using the program is I've identified what those neighborhoods are by setting up my boundaries in the previous example. So here's the neighborhood of Upton. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and click on my neighborhood name, search from a list. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to type in Upton, which I already know is identified. Then click search. It appears as one of the available neighborhoods to choose from. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on the arrow here to move it under the selected icon. Now over in this area is also a neighborhood, Bolton Hill. Click search again. You'll notice it appears as an available neighborhood. I'm going to click on it, again, using the arrow to move it over to selected. I now have 2 neighborhoods that I've selected, so I'm happy, satisfied with that. Again, you can pick multiple neighborhoods at a time. I click the apply button. You'll notice that those neighborhoods appear here. I can do a foreclosure search based on just those 2 neighborhoods, or I'm going to do an absentee owner search. So absentee owner, townhouse, row house only in these 2 neighborhoods. I then click search, and the program will gather those properties for me, and you'll see it'll be presented on the screen here shortly. So here we can see the program has identified 824 properties that meet that particular search criteria. So again, you could literally today market or target 824 property owners if you chose to just by using this program. So again, townhouse, row house classification, absentee owner, in just these 2 neighborhoods in Baltimore City, there's 824 properties that meet that criteria. So if it was me, I would put together my labels, print them out, put them on postcards, take them to the post office. And again, I've just targeted 824 property owners. Very simple to do. I can create my labels directly from here as well. It's the same process as what we saw before. The print labels tab will pop up. Check whatever is relevant to what you're doing, click create, and the program will create the labels for you. You can click the export button, customize, and then it'll give you the option to create your Excel spreadsheet. So again, here's the 161 out of 218 that I have. Here's the count. I have for the month remaining 9,960. In this particular export, there'd be 824, so that 824 would be deducted from the 9,960 that I had left. To do that, I would click export, and then it's the same process as we saw before with the Excel document popping up. So those are all of the different search criteria, search options that you have available to you using IURealist. Earlier on, we saved the Excel spreadsheet from one of our searches so that we can talk about how to do a mail merge. We're going to get into that now. What you need to do is I'm going to open up a blank Word document. What you want to do here is you want to either craft your letter now or open up a letter that you've already created. From here, you then click on the Mailings tab at the top. You then click the Start Mail Merge. You'll notice the drop down. You have different options to choose from. You can create letters, or you can create mailing labels from here. This demonstration, we're going to do letters first. So you click the letter icon. Now you want to select the recipient. That is the list that you already have. That's the Excel spreadsheet list that we have. So we're going to use an existing list. Here you want to go to where you saved it. So we saved it to the desktop. Scroll down until we find it. Here it is right here. I'm now going to double click. In that list, we're going to be able to choose from any of those fields at the top and insert it into our letter. So the nice thing about doing a mail merge is you simply follow the steps or what's highlighted in the top of the document. So we've select the recipients list. We don't need to edit the list. I'm now going to go over here to the address block. Here's how it will appear, or as you can choose how it will appear, the address of the person. It could be Mr. or Mrs. You have that option here. You then click on the match fields. So I'm going to do where it says first name. I'm going to scroll down to where it says mail owner name. Again, you don't need as many of these icons or these search fields as I have. You just need those basic ones that we discussed earlier, being mail owner name, the tax billing address, tax billing city, tax billing state, and the tax billing zip code. Here we are, tax billing address. We're now going to go over to where it says city. So what you can see what I'm doing here is I'm matching the fields. So where it says first name, I've put the mail owner name. Where it says address 1, that's where I've put the tax billing address. And now where it says city and state and postal code, I'm obviously going to go in and make sure that I have the tax billing city, state, and zip code in the right box. I can take a shortcut here and you'll notice that I have tax billing city and state as one option. So I'm going to click on that. And now the only thing that I have left to identify is the postal code, which is the zip code. I'm now going to again scroll down until I find the tax billing zip. Here it is here. I've now matched all of the fields that I've wanted to, so I click OK. And OK again. Now you'll notice the address block appears at the top. I can then hit Enter. And I can create a greeting if I wanted to. So you can see the standard versions here, the default settings. I'm just going to keep that here for demonstration purposes. I'm going to click OK. And then you can see the different options that you have as well. So you can insert any one of those fields, which is the heading at the top. You can insert any of those into the body of the letter. So what I generally do is I'll have the address block, I'll have a greeting, and then what I'll do is I'll go in and have the property address. So I have the property street name and suffix. And I'll also have the street number, etc. in that. So once you're satisfied, you then come over here and you click Finish and Merge. I always click Edit Individual Documents just so I can take a look at it and make sure it's to my liking. And what the program will do is it will insert all of that information into the letter. So as I scroll down, you can notice that here is the owner's name, Patricia Boyle. She's here. And I only picked the street suffix, not the property address, just to kind of make it a quick demonstration here. But as I scroll through the different letters, you can see here how it appears. So I've just created 13 letters by using one letter that I've already had. So obviously here in each one of my letters, I would have already had something explained, interested in real estate, whatever the heading is that you're trying to achieve, etc. So I would have already had all of that typed in. So again, when you open up the Word document, it's either a blank document that you're going to create the label or create the letter as you go, or it's going to be you have a letter already typed and crafted, and you're then going to open up that letter rather than a blank Word document. So we've just completed a mail merge, creating letters using our Excel spreadsheet. I'm now going to show you how you can also create labels from that same Excel spreadsheet. What you want to do is you want to open a blank Word document, click on the Mailings tab at the top, click on the Start Mail Merge. I'm going to click on the Labels icon. I'm again going to select the recipients, I'm going to use an existing list. I'm now going to click on the Insert Merge field. I'm going to scroll down until I get to the mail owner name, tax billing address. I'm going to hit Enter again. Every time you see these double arrows, that's creating a space. So I wanted to hit the Return button. I'm now going to click on the Finish and Merge button at the bottom, or I'm sorry, all the way to the far right. I'm going to edit individual documents just to make sure that it's to my liking. Click OK. To recap, in today's tutorial we learned prospecting techniques, how to use IURealist for identifying properties and potential opportunities, and when we find those properties, how to use valuation, which are comparable sales, the comps. Keep in mind, as you're using IURealist, you're downloading, you're exporting files, each user is allowed 10,000 total downloads per month. Just keep that in mind. As always, we're here for all of our members at Investors United. We're always a phone call away. Feel free to reach out to us with questions or concerns. Thank you for using IURealist.